Some of us see injustice and say, I really feel sorry for him. Some of us see exploitation and boast, they will not do this to me. Some see poverty and confide, thank God I'm not there. Some see devastation and believe in their hearts, now it's each man for himself. Atherton Martin sees all of this, injustice, exploitation, poverty, and devastation, and immediately adopts an approach that says in 4 words, not on my watch. My name is Allan Williams, and I've known Athie and Faye Martin for over 50 years now. In spite of all of the complaints, criticisms, and disrespect thrown his way, I still have not found cause to unfriend him. And that is not a boast of how well I know him. Rather, it is a boast of how well he knows us and his country, well enough to always be impatient to do something about it. When Athie sees anything or reads anything that is not true, he takes it to heart. So when he hears the words, Après bondi, c'est la terre, that becomes his playbook. To save la terre, and to save all human and non-human species that reside in la terre. And whoever does not like it, chupu. I have witnessed this playbook in action for 50 years. Starting in 1972, when Athie assumed his first job in Dominica after graduating from Cornell University, where I met him and Faye. Here's what happened with Athie in his first job. Within weeks of taking up his position as estate manager, Athie was required to fire 30% of the workforce on the estate. Not on his watch. Instead, he got himself fired and led those very poor farmers in the formation of the Castle Bruce Cooperative, which not only gave income and economic stability to those small farmers, but also gave hope to a generation of their children who went on to do great things. Let me give you a snippet of the conversation between Athie and his former bosses in his first ever management job in CDC's Castle Bruce estate. I recorded this as he told it to me about 2 weeks after the crisis had begun. A little background is necessary. So Athie had been instructed by his bosses to supply the general manager with a list of 89 persons to be fired so as to make the estate more profitable. Having initially refused to do so, he came face to face with the GM, Mr. Allan, who arrived in Castle Bruce accompanied by an official from CDC headquarters in Barbados, with the explicit intent of talking some sense into Athie's head. Well, actually, they really should have consulted Faye first, as she could have testified as to how hard his head is. This is the tail end of that 2-hour meeting between Athie and his white overseer bosses. Athie, why is the layoff necessary? Because Castle Bruce is not making profits. I have not seen any statistics to support such a claim. We admire your interest in the affairs of the company. You may admire whatever you desire to, but provided I do not see any statistics to verify your claim, and we do not consider the alternatives to the layoff, there will be no list forthcoming. Why not? Because of the problems such a layoff will cause for the people of the village of Castle Bruce. This was followed by a lecture on the economy of Dominica and Castle Bruce. We admire your concern for these people, but what about your concern for the company's profits? I have been at Dominica for 26 years. I have been a member of your company for slightly over 26 days. What about your contract? The clause in it is offensive. We think that it would be in your interest to reconsider both decisions. Goodbye. Athie then mobilized his very employees to fight for their right to exist in his land. I happened to be there at one of these mobilization meetings in which a member of DAWU, the Dominica Agricultural Workers Union, had come up to capitalize on the situation by enrolling the workers into his union. In a discussion afterwards, this union organizer said to me, "These workers really don't understand trade unionism. They want me to fight for the manager to keep his position. Unions fight against managers' positions." Well, if you are trained in conventional thinking, you may have some difficulty figuring out what Athie is accomplishing. Within the limited time that is afforded me, I would like to show you how this approach continued to play itself out throughout his life history. I only have time to share with you 4 instances in 1988, 2002, 2008, and 2010. The first is one in which Athie received the most prestigious international award, the Goldman Environmental Prize Award in 1988. The Goldman Environmental Prize is an award given to honor the achievements and leadership of grassroots environmental activists from around the world, whose action inspire all of us to take action to protect our planet. In 1988, Athie was the winner of this international award. This is how the awarders summarized his actions. In 1985, Dominica's rich ecosystem became threatened by BHP, Australia's largest mining company at that time, which was planning a major copper mining operations there. The Dominican Parliament rushed to approve the Mines and Minerals Act of 1986 in less than 24 hours, making environmental assessment discretionary rather than mandatory. BHP was immediately granted 2 prospecting licenses at virtually no cost for an area totaling 7,200 hectares, which comprised 10% of Dominica's total land surface. Athie, like all other technically skilled persons, understood that strip mining usually generated enormous wealth for the companies but left both the people and the land poorer for future generations. Once again, as throughout his lifetime, "Not on my watch" became the playbook. And Athie was able, with others, to successfully stop that destructive project from defacing and impoverishing Dominica and its environment. I would like to remind you all that when Athie took this action, he was not walking in the streets of Roseau in white shirts with a few activists. Spoiler alert, he was at that time the chairman of the Development and Planning Corporation. Another lesson in leadership of state corporations in the defense of poor people and future generations. Very few chairmen of state corporations have ever heeded this course. This brings me to another foundation block that Athie was instrumental in building, and that is the Integrated Development Plan, the IDP, in 2002. This was a multi-million-dollar project funded by the FID of the United Kingdom, seeking to change the face of development planning in the Caribbean. Athie assembled a team of 5 of the most talented and dedicated professionals in Dominica. This team included persons like Carissa Etienne, who is now the Executive Director of PAHO WHO, and others like Lambert Lewis, who was at the National Bank, and Ron Green, a professional from the NGO community. I happen to be the economist on the team. Again, some background information is needed here for you to fully understand the deep significance of this task. By the dawn of the new century, developing countries had been experimenting for 50 years with the concept of development planning, partly as a political program for their election manifestos, but more importantly, to provide their leaders with a wish list to present to financial donors for cash. But what would happen if we could develop a national plan that did not chase foreign donors' money, but instead chased the hopes and aspirations of ordinary Dominicans? Athie showed the present and the future generations of Dominicans how to assemble the content of this mother of all development plans. Under Athie's leadership, the IDP did the following. We conducted 15 sensitization meetings in communities throughout the country. We met with over 600 persons from all walks of life in Dominica to solicit their input. We held consultations with as many organized groups as existed at that time to encourage them to contribute ideas. And we held 25 public meetings, not to tell people what we were going to do for them in this plan, but to ensure that the team members who were going to write the plan would listen and hear the aspirations and expectations as expressed by the public. This massive volume of work was distilled into 52 discussion papers on all subjects pertinent to almost every sector of the Dominican economy and society. Of course, petty politics did its best to shift this valuable knowledge asset out of the way of political expediency. But Athie and myself, using the technology, had designed all 52 papers into digital formats. For the remaining 20 years, Athie would occasionally call me and say that he received a visit from some foreign consultant to the government. I would ask him, what did he want? And he would respond, nothing that we had not already addressed in the IDP. So I gave him the relevant paper. And what did he say? What they always say. But you guys have done all my assignment already. You know, when I was asked to make these comments, I boasted to my very good friend Anthony that I probably had lots of old pictures of Athie in my archives for this occasion. I was dead wrong. I did not have very many pictures of Athie. Then I realized why. Whenever I was in his presence, Athie never placed himself in a picture. What he would always do was to point to the problem or the issue that he wanted help in resolving while on his watch. I found one of those pictures that upset him very much, and it was this one, showing the dumping and burning of used tires in the Foncolé Valley. Have a good look at this picture taken in 2008. And I will tell you how Athie's reaction, not on my watch, played out. You may not have heard of this because he did not march in the streets. What he did was to assemble all the technical data, and together we formulated a project to recycle these used tires into what is called crumb rubber. Athie even got assigned to himself the proprietary rights for this technology, so as to ensure that it could be gainfully applied to solving the problem in Dominica. His solution was to turn this devastating picture into a production process that would produce rubber chips, which can be used as fuel in cement factories, rubber crumbs, which can be combined with asphalt to provide more elasticity on paved roads, thus reducing cracking in roads and less potholes. Very mundane things. Actually, this single product, crumb rubber, could have become a game changer in creating employment, as its many uses included use in sports fields, driveways, parks, and other civil engineering applications. Essentially, this was a project within the wider scope of solid waste management in the country, and as such, required some degree of state, that is, government intervention. The collection costs, depending on the type of program operated, averaged between $1.82 and $2.26 per tire. Crumb in each tire would have cost us about $2.40 per tire. But this required the government to introduce an environmental levy on recyclable products, including plastic containers and tires. This levy would be payable to the units that recycle these products. Paying a government level to Athie Mate? No way. You see, the persons who automatically oppose Athie only see in their mind's eye a picture of Athie, nothing else. Those who admire and support Athie see in their mind's eye the picture of the issues and problems he is pointing to and the solutions he's proposing. Finally, let me introduce you to one last initiative of Athie, which I'm sure you have never heard, the Layu Biopark. In 2010, Athie called me to complain that he had found out that funds allocated to Dominica to develop an ecological project were being returned to the donor because the officials could not think what such a project would contain. His desire was to design a nature park that would demonstrate the essential elements needed to conserve the beautiful environment which makes us all proud of Dominica as the nature island of the Caribbean. Thus, the first biopark in Dominica was designed, costed, and even presented to the Cabinet of Dominica in 2010. Let me tell you some of the features of this biopark. Athie and Mr. Ashton Lugay, an excellent forester, had chosen the Layu River Basin as the preferred site, right in the vicinity of the defunct Layu River Hotel. The project was intended to create a major natural tourism asset right there in the Layu River Basin, and through heightening awareness of its value, to stimulate public opinion to block any further destructive industrial activities in or near that river. Here is what was fascinating about this idea. The park itself was across the river from the existing hotel, connected by a pedestrian bridge. So get this. To enter the nature park, you were being invited to leave the disgraceful edifice of the supposed development, that is the hotel, with all its corruption, and walk across the bridge to what would become a physical heritage of Dominica's beauty. This was a park that not only preserved fauna and flora of Dominica, in addition to a herbarium and preserved biodiversity zones, the park also contained an amphitheater built in such a way to facilitate Dominica's cultural presentation. So you would be able to enjoy watching them dance the ballet against a background of a beautiful running river and verdant green mountains. The park also had what was called a sketch artist corner, where artists from all walks of life in Dominica can come and display their works of art for sale to visitors, both local and foreign. 10 years after ditching a made-for-financing project that would have converted 10 acres into a nature park that would have been functional, interactive, and exhibitional, the government of Dominica got some money to create what it called CREED, the Climate Resilient Executive Agency of Dominica, and without doing any of the necessary groundwork, to simply declare Dominica as a climate resilient country. Laughable. From the Dominica University of Life and Struggle, Atherton Martin has earned with distinction the accolade of Foundation Block Builder, FBB. Wherever he encountered a problem, he built the foundation of a possible solution block by simple block. But rest assured, there is a generation that's coming. We don't know them. Athie will never meet them. But history has its own way of allowing the truth to be revealed. When this generation begins to demand that good governance and enlightened planning be restored to the island of Dominica, this generation will find redemption in their convictions from the foundations laid by one person who went before them, and that is Atherton Eloise Martin. So, on behalf of the generations of the future, I would like to say to Athie, thank you, thank you, thank you.